questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you. To explore the opportunities available at Mid and put your future plans in motion, connect with us at midmich.edu/admissions. Hello, my name is Beth Binder, and I'm the Director of Admissions at Mid-Michigan College. Welcome to our Career Roundtable series. We're excited to have you join us. As you consider different careers, you may be asking yourself questions like, what should I study? What will my career be like? And what challenges will I face? To help you answer questions like these, we've invited local professionals to share their knowledge and experiences with you through a discussion hosted by Mid-Admissions Representative Chris Pellerito. If you're joining us live, we hope you'll ask questions in the chat. If you're watching the recording, add your questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you. To explore the opportunities available at Mid and put your future plans in motion, connect with us at midmich.edu/admissions. Hello, my name is Beth Binder, and I'm the Director of Admissions at Mid-Michigan College. Welcome to our Career Roundtable series. We're excited to have you join us. As you consider different careers, you may be asking yourself questions like, what should I study? What will my career be like? And what challenges will I face? To help you answer questions like these, we've invited local professionals to share their knowledge and experiences with you through a discussion hosted by Mid-Admissions Representative Chris Pellerito. If you're joining us live, we hope you'll ask questions in the chat. If you're watching the recording, add your questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you. To explore the opportunities available at Mid and put your future plans in motion, connect with us at midmich.edu/admissions. Hello, my name is Beth Binder, and I'm the Director of Admissions at Mid-Michigan College. Welcome to our Career Roundtable series. We're excited to have you join us. As you consider different careers, you may be asking yourself questions like, what should I study? What will my career be like? And what challenges will I face? To help you answer questions like these, we've invited local professionals to share their knowledge and experiences with you through a discussion hosted by Mid-Admissions Representative Chris Pellerito. If you're joining us live, we hope you'll ask questions in the chat. If you're watching the recording, add your questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you. To explore the opportunities available at Mid and put your future plans in motion, connect with us at midmich.edu/admissions. Hello, my name is Beth Binder, and I'm the Director of Admissions at Mid-Michigan College. Welcome to our Career Roundtable series. We're excited to have you join us. As you consider different careers, you may be asking yourself questions like, what should I study? What will my career be like? And what challenges will I face? To help you answer questions like these, we've invited local professionals to share their knowledge and experiences with you through a discussion hosted by Mid-Admissions Representative Chris Pellerito. If you're joining us live, we hope you'll ask questions in the chat. If you're watching the recording, add your questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you. To explore the opportunities available at Mid and put your future plans in motion, connect with us at midmich.edu/admissions. Hello, my name is Beth Binder, and I'm the Director of Admissions at Mid-Michigan College. Welcome to our Career Roundtable series. We're excited to have you join us. As you consider different careers, you may be asking yourself questions like, what should I study? What will my career be like? And what challenges will I face? To help you answer questions like these, we've invited local professionals to share their knowledge and experiences with you through a discussion hosted by Mid-Admissions Representative Chris Pellerito. If you're joining us live, we hope you'll ask questions in the chat. If you're watching the recording, add your questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you. To explore the opportunities available at Mid and put your future plans in motion, connect with us at midmich.edu/admissions. Hello, my name is Beth Binder, and I'm the Director of Admissions at Mid-Michigan College. Welcome to our Career Roundtable series. We're excited to have you join us. As you consider different careers, you may be asking yourself questions like, what should I study? What will my career be like? And what challenges will I face? To help you answer questions like these, we've invited local professionals to share their knowledge and experiences with you through a discussion hosted by Mid-Admissions Representative Chris Pellerito. If you're joining us live, we hope you'll ask questions in the chat. If you're watching the recording, add your questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you. To explore the opportunities available at Mid and put your future plans in motion, connect with us at midmich.edu/admissions. Hello, my name is Beth Binder, and I'm the Director of Admissions at Mid-Michigan College. Welcome to our Career Roundtable series. We're excited to have you join us. As you consider different careers, you may be asking yourself questions like, what should I study? What will my career be like? And what challenges will I face? To help you answer questions like these, we've invited local professionals to share their knowledge and experiences with you through a discussion hosted by Mid-Admissions Representative Chris Pellerito. If you're joining us live, we hope you'll ask questions in the chat. If you're watching the recording, add your questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you. To explore the opportunities available at Mid and put your future plans in motion, connect with us at midmich.edu/admissions.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to our roundtable. I don't underestimate when I say good morning because I don't take those for granted. Yes. Okay, already the volume is low. Welcome to live television. We do this live. Is this better? We do this live because you are the live generation, the TikTok generation who asks for this specifically. And you get what happens, whatever happens, whenever it happens, when you do the live pathway. I'm Chris Pellerito with Mid-Michigan College. And those that ask me, I'm tempted to say, well, where's Mid-Michigan College? It's right here, of course. But just to be specific, we are located on our Mount Pleasant campus. And about a half an hour north of us, just outside of the town of Harrison, we have another campus as well. We have presence across the state, Bad Axe, Big Rapids, etc., but largely it's those two campuses. This is not an infomercial today for our college, despite two of you in the room that probably would love for me to do more of that, but that's not why we're here. We're here because of you. And we're going to have a little bit of conversation that you get to eavesdrop on and jump into if you care to. Okay? On that note, off camera right now is my wonderful colleague, Annette, way brighter than I am. Annette is fielding any incoming questions. I did get a few in advance. Thank you for those. But if something strikes you today, this morning, and you want to send along a question of some form to one of our guests, please do so, and then Annette's going to flag us down and make sure that your question gets addressed. Fair enough? Behind the camera is Noah, and I'll reference that a little bit later as well. But again, thank you for being part of this. I think you're going to be pleased to be able to eavesdrop on this bit of conversation. I have with me three special ones. I say that often, but I really mean it this time, and their introductions will help clarify that, and then we'll go from there. So if you don't mind, Tim, let's start from your end. Would you introduce yourself?
For sure. Thanks, Chris. Good morning. My name is Tim Cassidy. I am with Ferris State University. I've been faculty and advisor for 20 years. My former career was as an assistant prosecuting attorney for Genesee County for approximately, I think I said 23 years, yeah. And I'm very glad to be here, and I really appreciate the invitation.
Thank you for being here. Tim has that double bonus, the 2 scoops of ice cream kind of thing, because he's involved with CJ and he's teaching. Good stuff. Mark?
Well, my name is Mark Vankowski. I work as the program coordinator for Mid-Michigan College for the criminal justice and then also the hunting and angling studies program. I also work for the state of Michigan as a conservation officer through the DNR Law Enforcement Division, and I've been doing that for about 3 years now.
So a few of you, I hope you picked up on that. Mark has his own double scoop of ice cream as well in that, and I'm not sure the ice cream thing, but Mark's the 6-pound bass on the other end of the line. But he has that bonus of, I hope you caught that, he's a conservation officer with the DNR. At the same time, or concurrently, he is working with Mid-Michigan College. We're fortunate to have him. He oversees our CJ department or our CJ program and our Haas program, which we'll get to in a minute, right? Yep. Okay, and last but certainly not least, Michelle, Sheriff Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle LaJoy Young. I'm the Kent County Sheriff. I've been with the Sheriff's Office since 1989, starting in corrections and having most of the roles in the department over the years. And I've been Sheriff for the last 7 years.
Super cool. Okay, no ice cream, no bass fishing. I'm not going to talk about the double scoop. There's much to be talked about regarding Michelle and her background. They each have super cool origin stories, but as long as we're talking about school and Ferris State University is here, I want to lead with this one. It's a bit of an easier pitch, so to speak. We've had in the past, and most of you know this, we've had Lansing Community College represented here. We've had Kirtland Community College, Delta College, West Shore Community College. To some extent, we've had Mid represented, but this is not an infomercial for Mid. But we've never had Ferris State University represented, and particularly Ferris State University CJ, and I've always wanted to. So Tim, tell us a little bit about CJ at Ferris, because there are some in law enforcement, correct me if I'm wrong, that would say, you don't need that. Just come on with us and let's go do law enforcement. Why? Tell us about Ferris State
And
CJ.
for sure, and that's not a wrong answer to begin with. However, there are great benefits by attending Ferris State University. I'll make it kind of an infomercial on you, Chris, but or any institution. But for Ferris State, by having that bachelor's degree, by often having the opportunity to possibly pursue onto a master's degree, it's going to give you those opportunities to go above and beyond. Once you start with any criminal justice agency, it's great, and you're in the job, and you're enjoying the job, and you're making the money and experiencing all that you want to. But then you realize, maybe I want to move up. Maybe I would like to be sheriff someday. Now these entities are looking for someone who has that bachelor's degree, and this just helps that student go much, much further. I've had at one point, just as a narrative, in a class of mine, I had 3 interim chiefs of police who needed their bachelor's degrees to become chiefs of police for their respective departments. Mm-hmm. And they've been on the road doing the job for 20 years, but now they're in my classroom. So always good to jump in. You can jump in anytime. So
if I were to bring in 20 years of experience to the classroom, obviously I'm bringing a ton in,
Right.
but for Ferris State University's perspective, are they going to give me some form of alternative credit?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we're a very credit-friendly institution. Work experience credit, career center credit, all sorts of opportunities to get that credit that you're bringing from the various community colleges. We take military credit. We're very, very credit-friendly at Ferris State University.
Good deal. Glad to hear the military part, too. We have a large number of students transfer out of Mid-Michigan College heading over to Ferris State University. It's super cool to hear that.
Great pipeline.
I get told I'm mistaken often, particularly at home. But I think I'm right on this next point. I tell students, 17 and 18-year-olds, all the time, if you go to school, you get some keys to doors you might want to go through someday. Maybe not now, but someday. And if you get to that door, like you just sort of described, sheriffs with 20 years of experience, literally, or interim sheriffs, I mean, is that accurate? If I go to Mid and get CJ degree, if I go to Ferris and get a CJ degree or further CJ education, I've got more keys to go through more doors, therefore more options?
Definitely, and everyone else can jump in on this. That's for sure. That criminal justice degree opens so many different doors, and you're just thinking, well, law enforcement or probation, parole, whatnot. No, there's so much more. I mean, and I was in law enforcement, but worked in the prosecutor's office. If someone would have told me that I was going to be an instructor at the college level back when I was practicing law, I would have said, "You're crazy. That's never going to happen."
Sure.
But my criminal justice background opened this particular door, and Ferris made that offer. I know of many who've gone through their careers who are now doing things that they never imagined they'd be doing with their criminal justice degree. It's just it's a great field for so many different things.
Sure.
If I could jump in
Please
on that.
do.
And I think it's important that you don't think of it just as the credential, just as the bachelor's degree or the master's degree, but instead the skill building tasks that are involved in getting an education really pay off in the industry. And I'll just liken it to, we generally bring people in with degrees. We look for people with degrees. But when we have individuals who get there without the degrees, they have a harder time learning report writing skill sets. I cannot point to a more important thing that you need to do than to write reports.
Yes.
And when you haven't had the experience developing a story, producing the facts that need to, developing probable cause in that report, such as what you would build in a bachelor's program, you have a hard time learning how to do that, and you get a worse start at the department that you're trying to build. You will not be tracked to get the opportunity, generally speaking, to be a command officer or a chief if you don't have an education that has started with some kind of credential, but then also built over your career. So you really have to plan on lifelong learning, plan on developing your skill set both tactically, but also scholastically the entire time you're in law enforcement or corrections or any other criminal justice industry.
That was a 7-pound bass of an answer. My goodness gracious.
Why she's sheriff.
Yeah, that's true. That's why she's sheriff. And it's interesting because we've done these roundtables for criminal justice numerous times for about 4 or 5 years. And that's a recurring theme. The report writing piece, like, please don't underestimate the report writing importance. Mark, I heard a little bit of a common theme in Tim's answer. Knowing that I know you that well and your bit of a background, do you mind just touching on your background? Because you didn't come out of high school. There's often that joke like, I went right to college and I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that wasn't me at all. I was fortunate to have some incredible teachers in high school, and that was my set, was I was going to be a high school teacher and be just like Mr. Hicks. So he's out there. He was an incredible teacher, incredible coach and everything, and I wanted to be just like him and teach kids and coach sports. I did teach for a handful of years and was in experiential ed for about 10 total, and I realized that I needed to be in the outdoors. I needed to do something different. And then over the course of 2017, 18, all the way through COVID, there's obviously a huge change in police and society in general. And I started seeing a lot of things on TV that just made me think, like, one of my friends has this old saying, like, you can either talk about it or be about it or try to be the change. And by no means did I think I was going to change everything in the world, but I kept seeing all these things on TV that were negative, and I could either sit back and watch it on TV or try to help it out. And so I ended up coming across the Mid-Michigan HAS program, the Hunting and Angling Studies program. Found a Facebook ad, and I clicked on it, and I was like, this seems way too good to be true. And so I sent it to one of my friends, and she was like, I don't understand how this is a real course, a real program, but this is like exactly what you should do. And sure enough, I started taking some of the classes, and I had never thought about law enforcement really before then. And they had a lieutenant from the DNR come in and teach a portion of the class and do a presentation. And I picked his brain afterwards and ended up finding an officer at one of the local parks and picked his brain and picked another officer's brain. And I was like, man, this seems like a really cool opportunity. So if I didn't, take a wide variety of courses through my, general education at Alma College and then take some additional courses here at Mid, I would have never been exposed to that lieutenant at the DNR, and I probably wouldn't be in law enforcement now. So I think piggybacking on, you don't have to go and get your bachelor's or get your associates in order to join law enforcement. Those exposures to the different classes, not only in criminal justice or corrections or outdoors or anything like that, you can always find something that might trigger you that says, this is what I want to do. And just this year alone, we've had a handful of students and programs where they've reached out and they're like, wanted to be a conservation officer 100%. That's why I came to Mid. And my first day in my outdoor media class, I was totally blown away. And
Yes.
I was already calling my mentor saying, I'm going to switch.
Yes.
And then for me, it was the opposite. Like, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to be law enforcement. And then I met the officers and started learning more about it. And I said, yep, that's what I want to do. So we've had people say, like, hey, I really thought this, but I realized I wasn't a good fit at all. And it's not my personality. I don't have the skill sets for it and everything, but I want to go over here. And that's awesome to have that clarity and that self-awareness that, hey, I really thought I want to do this, maybe get some pressure from parents, but I had to look myself in the mirror and realize that's not for me. And she totally switched up things, and she's going after a different pathway, and hopefully she's going to be really successful with it. But to have that self-awareness at such a
Yes.
young age is awesome.
Yeah.
So
That was excellent. That was a 7-pound bass. Thank you.
we're just keeping more fish.
I'm frequently, I think, Mark, you and I have talked about this. I'm frequently motivated by, man, I wish somebody when I was 17 or 18 had said, listen, you need to know this. I'm hearing it right now. We are going to loop back around to the Haas, but not yet. I want to ask, forgive me if this is a little, whatever. It's the way I serve up the questions sometimes. Tell me again, you mentioned it before we were on camera. You oversee, it's Kent County. Kent County, for those that are not aware, it's one of the most populated counties in the state of Michigan. Grand Rapids falls in Kent County. How many employees do you oversee?
We have 760 employees.
Wow.
And we are the fastest growing county in the entire state. So
Really?
that's really changing pretty dramatically over these last several years, and we're increasing.
Okay, so most out there on the behind the other side of the camera would say, yeah, I think I've heard it's tough to get good law enforcement officials hired. What do you do? What do you look for?
We look for character. I can't even emphasize that enough. If you have a good character, you want to work hard, but then you also have the personal traits to work successfully in the industry, you can find resources to get the education. You can find resources to get the training. There's a lot of grant programs out right now. But so I look for character. Look for somebody who can work hard. There's physical challenges in law enforcement or corrections. Frankly, just in life, there are physical challenges. So
Yeah.
you have to be willing to work hard in that way too, but again, scholastically. But we look for somebody who can make good decisions, who can multitask, who can demonstrate those skills. And it's not for everybody. As we're talking to 17 and 18-year-olds, I think it's important to really listen to what we're saying, that you literally might not know what you want to do for the rest of your life, or if you can do something like this, but you can take that next step forward to develop skill sets that will help you in multi areas, and then kind of hone in what that real good fit is for you. Criminal justice is a huge industry. It's very wide. It's got all kinds of opportunities.
Yeah.
So even if you were to set out on a criminal justice approach, you'll have a lot of opportunities to make different choices. In my department, we have corrections, pretty large. We have court security. We have law enforcement. I have animal control officers. I have dispatchers who spend their entire career in communications. We have support personnel, analysts, volunteer coordinators. We have a social worker. So it's far different than cops or corrections officers. So keep an open mind.
Even though most would simply presume it's just cops or correction officers.
I
and
wish
that's
it were
about
that easy.
Sure,
We
I'll
have to
bet.
hire a lot of people.
Sure. Tim and Mark, how do you make your students aware that, hey, it's not just cops and correction officers? There are, because it seems to me in the conversations I have with many 17 and 18-year-olds, we use this term around here often, they just don't know what's on the menu. How do you help them understand what's on the menu?
I think at Mid, specifically, we have instructors from lots of different areas that were former attorneys or they are attorneys. They are law enforcement officers for the state police or local sheriff's departments, campus police. And just getting that exposure from different instructors and people in different fields is huge. I also think that bringing in guest instructors or guest lecturers and things are huge. And I think it can get lost in the mix sometimes, where there's another face in front of the room is in the mix of the 3 or 4 other classes they've got plus another job and life. But just getting that exposure to see what else is out there, because like Sheriff Young mentioned, wearing a badge and carrying a gun is not for everybody, and that's okay. There's roles for different people with different personalities, different skill sets throughout correction or throughout law enforcement that can be very fulfilling. They can do an incredible job. They can make a huge impact, and it doesn't have to be in a patrol car going around. Right. So I think it's just that exposure to different areas and understanding what else is out there is kind of on our role at the college, but also on the students' role to seek it out too. Like you can't have everything just delivered to you. Here's your pamphlet. Here's this guest speaker. You have to seek it out as well. So if you are interested in this field, I encourage everybody to go do a ride along, go do a job shadow, go talk to people that are at the local court offices or the city halls and see what else is out there.
Yeah, I would just piggyback on that. Ferris also, everybody is a practitioner. Everybody was in some type of criminal justice background before they became an instructor in our criminal justice program. But just like a couple of different areas, just to kind of add to what Mark's already said, is you think about like social work. Maybe it's just like, I'm hearing all these different things about criminal justice from law enforcement to corrections officers to whatnot. Social work, I can't tell you how many letters of recommendation I've done for my former students who have gone on to get their master's in social work because they want to go out and do that type of work, which is still considered criminal justice related work. You have alternatives to incarceration. You have victim witness type work. For those people who are like, carrying a gun, arresting people, doing that type of work is not for me. There's all kinds of other alternatives to that. And then the other one that I'd like to point out too is in the civil arena, so to speak, is security, store security and whatnot. Not your, yes, it could be your local person that's your target who's catching shoplifters or whatever, but being in the corporate world, working for entire corporations in their focus. We have a lot of our graduates who are now part of the corporate system with large companies who are addressing security issues in their national and international corporations. So there's a lot of different things you can get into with this type of degree.
And if I could add, I know a lot of you guys are going to need to work while you're going to school. Cadet programs, paid internships are available in many places in this industry. It's an incredibly valuable way to learn about the day-to-day life of people who are practitioners in the industry. That will tell you a lot about what you'll be comfortable doing. It'll give you a variety of experiences, and it just helps you do something very productive while you're maturing into the years that you probably will become a practitioner and you get some additional education.
So if an 18-year-old comes to you and says, I want law enforcement, but I don't want that, isn't there a shortcut? What's your response?
There's no shortcuts in life. There really aren't. I honestly think that getting that education under your belt, doing some practical experience such as a cadet, for my agency would be a cadet, will build you better than trying to get that scholarship and hurry up and get through whatever minimal education you can so you can get hired at a small department. In the end, it shortcuts where you need to go to be prepared for the long term. So I would tell you, plan on doing work towards that career for maybe 3 years. Maybe 21 would be probably the earliest I would recommend actually being a full-time practitioner in law enforcement or corrections. I know that answer differs a little bit for some of the smaller departments who are trying to encourage people to hurry up and get out there, but your brain is not mature yet. You have to make very quick decisions And that life experience helps you make them, and it helps you do better. So I recommend that you have kind of a longer path picked for yourself where you've got some time to develop, acquire skill sets, get an education, and then proceed to your career.
Excellent. You notice she looked right at, Sheriff Michelle looked right at me when she said, your brain is not mature yet.
Right.
You weren't really talking to me, were you?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply
Your
that.
brain, Chris.
Yeah.
What were you going to add?
I just remember like one night, like the academy is a very tough, grueling, mentally, physically, emotionally exhausting experience.
Why?
Regardless of what department you go through. And you go to some kind of like dark place, but deeper thoughts. And like you really question a lot of things and like wonder, hey, if this is this right for me? What would be different if I were 10 years older or 10 years younger? And I remember one conversation I had with another guy that I was in the academy with, and I came in at the academy at 33. He came in at 28, and there was another few different individuals in our academy group that were in at 21, 22 years old. And I said, do you think you would have done well in this at 21, 22? And he said, absolutely not. No chance. He's like, I think I needed that 6, 7, 8 years after college of doing different things, because and we've talked about it since as kind of a joking matter now that we're a few years in. And he reiterates it and he double downs on it and says, I would have not been a very good officer, and we're all still learning, but I would not be the officer I am today if I would have jumped in at 21. He's like, I was not ready at all. There are people that are ready right off the get-go. So not to dissuade anybody from trying to jump in early, but you have to understand yourself and understand, hey, is this the right thing for me at this point in time, or do I need to do a few other things first and then jump in? Because I personally think that between graduating at 21 and jumping in at 33, those 12 years were huge. Did a bunch of different things. I've learned a lot of different life lessons. I got chewed out by bosses and I got celebrated by bosses. And all those things helped me kind of be who I am today and enforce the law in a certain way and communicate a certain way, or be able to see things before they happen. And that's a huge thing I think that I've learned.
That
is understanding what could happen or what's going to happen based on the situation, the person, their hand movements, their gestures, and things like that. Those are all things that it's hard to learn from a book or hard to learn in an academy. You have to have some different experience underneath your belt. And I think that just comes with a little bit of time.
But do you not find a lot of 18-year-olds who think, I already see that, I already get that, I'm different from most 18, 19-year-olds? Because I meet many who kind of, that's the feel.
Yeah, there's a confidence too that I think goes a long way in the job as well. And having that confidence is key in some aspects, but you also don't know what you don't know. And having that buffer, I think, is huge. And that's where I think, even just a couple of years out of high school, if you go get an associate's and you kind of try some different classes and get a little bit of experience underneath your belt and have that buffer in between high school and kind of that enter into adulthood. Because like Sheriff Young said, your brain doesn't fully develop until you're 26.
Right.
So even after you graduate, like most people graduate within 4 or 5 years in college, they're still not there yet. And I think that's just from a psychological standpoint and a science standpoint, it's almost saying, hey, we need a little bit more time.
What do you want to add?
I just wanted to add, I agree with what's being said here 100%, but we also know that there are viewers out here who are going to be like, as you say, Chris, but that's not me, and I'm jumping in as soon as I can. And just for those individuals who are going down that path, I think it's already been mentioned by Mark, and just to reiterate, and I wanted to touch upon what the sheriff said a moment ago, is then you better volunteer. Get in there, find a mentor, experience it, start to, maybe you don't get any pay for it, but you're going to start to get those experiences. Jump in wherever you can to get as much experience as you can if you think you're going to be that 18-year-old who isn't going to follow this great advice and wants to jump in right away. And I would go back to what the sheriff said about report writing. As a former prosecutor, I can tell you the first impression that I ever received on any police officer, on any probation officer, was not meeting them in person, but was reading their reports. And as big as criminal justice is, criminal justice kind of communities are kind of small.
Yeah.
So all law enforcement knows all the prosecutors, knows all the defense attorneys, know all the judges, And I can tell you, I've had judges, defense attorneys, other prosecutors read this report. What do you think of this person off of these reports? So, and you could tell it was the person who didn't have that experience, hadn't had those life experiences, who jumped in maybe a little too quickly.
Sure.
And you're like, this person isn't ready. Now they've built a reputation that is harming them within the community, where somebody who's been around a while or who has really made the effort to work at that now has a great reputation within the community. It's really, really important. I just want to add that.
Cool. Did you want to add?
And I'll go back to, if you're really considering jumping in and doing something right now at 18, 19, 20, I recommend a cadet program. I recommend maybe a position that's more progressive responsibility before you jump into the law enforcement or even corrections officer. But make sure that your plan includes how you're going to develop from there. Instead of acquiring that job and planning to stay in that job, there's a lot of statistics about burnout. If you're not properly prepared for a position when you initially take it, you're far more likely to be burned out from the industry and then searching again for something to do with the rest of your life. So really give yourself the opportunity to be very successful by having a mindset of preparation.
Okay, excellent. This next part this next set of questions has kind of two parts. I'm going to start with the first, and then I'll get to the second one, because the first will lead into that. Baseball's been talking analytics for a long time. The NFL, more and more you hear about analytics, and there's still that element with the NFL, like, there's some gut feeling, this is how we've always done it, it works just fine, that kind of thing. We talk here at the college about, data-driven decision-making. Is that where criminal justice is headed? Is criminal justice currently data-driven when you're making decisions?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
And a couple of answers to that.
Sure.
You need to have a good understanding of how to read the data. It's easy to put a bunch of points on the map and say, well, there's a heat map there. That's where we should focus all of our resources. But there's a lot more to it than that. And having a good foundation of, the science behind criminal justice, reading statistics, understanding people, behavior patterns, all of that kind of goes into it. So it's not just as easy as saying, well, there's dots here, we're going to put a lot of resources.
Yeah.
We do evaluate substantially the times of day of week, the patterns of behavior that we have, and maybe there's events that trigger things, and trying to understand the bigger picture about where our call loads are, where our people resources need to be, how I need to stack those shifts in order to have the response times that are safe for our community, but also how our patterns of arrests affect outcomes, how they affect the social economic status of a community, or how that might affect our patterns of enforcement. All of those have to be evaluated together to be a truly successful community partner, which is what a law enforcement agency needs to be.
Yeah, clearly.
And then also the reentry side. You'd mentioned it a little bit in corrections. I have a 1,400 bed correctional facility, and our biggest focus is what happens on the day they're going out the door. Not what's happening the day they get there. That's important too.
Sure.
The security portion of it's important too. But how am I preparing that resident of Kent County to rejoin the community in a way that's effective and in a way that they're not going to come back in my door?
That falls on you too.
Yes.
My gosh. Do you walk out at, I don't know, you probably never walk out at 5 o'clock, but do you walk out at 5 o'clock thinking, sorry, I got so into this. Forgot the microphone. Forget you guys.
Yeah.
Do you walk out at the door at 5 o'clock and think, my gosh, all this is on me?
Yeah, well, I certainly did at first. Obviously, we're talking about, people and staffing, and our focus is to bring people in who are experts in different facets of the sheriff's operation. it takes a lot of thought and planning and strategic development to get people in the place who know the information they need.
Yeah.
But I have learned
Sure.
a lot about, I have a team for a reason. And I have to
Yeah.
depend on that team because it helps them, it helps the community, and frankly, it helps me sleep at night, which I don't know how I would if I was trying to worry about every issue, every responsibility we have every night myself.
That's super cool. I teach comm here at Mid sometimes, and we just talked about this, small groups and teams and really what makes good teams go. You don't really get a 5 o'clock, I'm done kind of thing. How the heck do you handle that?
Yeah, so our schedule with the DNR is very flexible. We have to get in 80 hours by the end of the 2 weeks if there's no overtime available, and we can flex that depending on season dates, hunting seasons, fishing seasons, what's in season weather, and then just general patterns of when there's going to be the most activity. And going off what the sheriff mentioned earlier about burnout, you can carry a lot of that weight where if you're not out there, if you don't feel like you go to that next place where you can go check somebody, or you don't wait that extra hour until they come out of the woods or off the water, you feel like you could be missing a violation, or you could be missing somebody that you've been trying to work and trying to catch for a really long time, and that weighs on you. And throughout that process of, well, I'm just going to stay out a little bit longer, I'm going to go check one more spot, that starts to add up, and that starts to take away from your effectiveness, your decision-making skills, your skill set. If you're starting to get tired, overworked, frustrated, hungry, cranky, like all those things play into your skill set and your performance as an officer, and then that trickles out. So if I have an interaction after 14, 15 hours after a long day, and it's the first time you've ever made contact with a law enforcement officer, let alone a DNR officer, and I come in a little strong, that's your perception on not only how I am, but our whole department, or law enforcement in general. So you kind of have to take that weight on as well. So it's a heavy weight to kind of burden as well. But you have to understand, like, you got to be able to go home. And you have to understand and look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm not at my best right now. I just need to get back, or I need to go over here. I need to finish that report, so that's not looming in the back of my head. Because it carries with you. And you don't, especially when you're in it, it's hard to just go about your normal civilian life when you're off the clock. You're driving around and you're looking at the license plate that's got the expired tag. You see the person that you were arrested last week in the same spot you told them not to go. There's all those things that just it's hard to turn off. And then that goes into your family dynamics and your relationships outside, where when we joke around, we get lied to for a living. and it plays into your roles in your relationship, where you look at your husband or your wife or your kids, and you start to see things, or we do go to a lot of trainings about learning body mannerisms and different tells that people do when they lie, and you start to see it.
By Mid-Admissions Representative Chris Pellerito. If you're joining us live, we hope you'll ask questions in the chat. If you're watching the recording, add your questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you. To explore the opportunities available at Mid and put your future plans in motion, connect with us at midmich.edu/admissions. Hello, my name is Beth Binder, and I'm the Director of Admissions at Mid-Michigan College. Welcome to our Career Roundtable series. We're excited to have you join us. As you consider different careers, you may be asking yourself questions like, what should I study? What will my career be like? And what challenges will I face? To help you answer questions like these, we've invited local professionals to share their knowledge and experiences with you through a discussion.
Okay, well, welcome back. I'm not sure what that experience was like for you. It was remarkable on this end. A comet landed in nearby Mount Pleasant, but everyone's fine. And concurrently, we topped 1 million viewers, so the capacity was a little bit tested, but much like criminal justice folks, we handle it and we move forward. I shouldn't say we. I'm not one of those heroes. The question we were just jumping into involved policy, and can policy affect change, or is it something above or below or beyond or around that? What were you going to add?
Just briefly, Chris, I would just say, like anything, it's not an end-all be-all. It's policy and It takes many factors, particularly those who make the policy have to be spot on. Those who enforce the policy have to also be spot on. Like anything, this is a really people-driven industry, criminal justice, and you can do policies and procedures and everything like that, but it's really comes down to the people who are doing the job day in and day out. So yeah, policies could, but it really depends on who it is that's behind those policies and who's implementing those policies.
And Sheriff Michelle, I know you wanted to add to that.
Yeah. So, and I would agree completely. The only way I can phrase this is there's some science and there's some art to doing this work, and you really have to make sure you're leaving room for the art. You are approaching somebody literally in their worst moment of their entire life in many circumstances, whether they're incarcerated for the first time or they're calling 911 and hoping that you can be the difference between life and death for them or a family or a major loss. If you approach that moment and you have a checklist of things you're required to do and that's what's on your mind, you're not the human being you need to be when you roll up. And it's super important for empathy and for somebody to feel heard, to feel that there isn't this cookie cutter approach to what's going to happen next, that you're here to problem solve with them. That's what makes a really good law enforcement officer, a corrections officer, a leader. You have to problem solve and listen. Too much policy keeps you from being able to do that. Enough policy helps you do it well. So developing that policy, well-informed decisions, and again, that lifelong learning, evolving, and changing with the needs of the community instead of saying, this is law enforcement, this is what we always do, it's what we always have done. Instead, you're adapting to the community that's changing with us, but it has to be a balance.
Excellent. Mark, did you hear that?
I did.
That might have been an 8-pound bass. Okay, no more bass references.
I was going to say, I think I'm the only one who didn't get a bass today.
I don't fish, so.
Either way, believe it or not, we've rounded the final turn on this. This has been magnificent, and I'm, again, super glad that you were able to eavesdrop as part of this conversation. Very quickly, there's a couple of things I'd be remiss if we didn't at least briefly address, and I told you this was coming. About half of our audience, roughly 417 and 18-year-olds who think maybe CJ is in their future will see this. Roughly half of that audience are young ladies. There are 73 counties in the state of Michigan and the UP. I'm sorry, UP folks, I only have 2 hands. One has a female sheriff. How the heck did you get here?
Every single day working as hard as I could. That's honestly the answer. We talked a little bit, and I don't want to make generalities because I think they can be damaging, but I do think some of the really powerful trends that I see as I work with staff, both male and female, young men often think they can do something until proven differently, and young women often feel like they can't until proven differently. So I would just say, if you picture yourself succeeding, picture yourself leading, picture yourself developing, you have a lot better shot at getting to a higher level, something with more responsibility, instead of really making yourself be super perfect at the role you're in before you visualize that next role. It takes a lot of work to get to be a sheriff because you really have to have a lot of experience. Me personally, I started as a corrections officer, went through communications. I then went back to the police academy. I'm going to give a shout out to GRCC also because I had my bachelor's degree from Michigan State, my master's degree from Western, and then I went back for my associates at GRCC to get my police academy certification. Again, lifelong learning, but you really just have to see that you can do anything you put your mind to and then develop the skill sets to be very successful at it. If you're waiting until the very end to think I might want that big job, you are probably going to run out of time to develop enough experience to get there.
Yeah, like you said earlier off camera, run out of runway.
You run out of runway. You can't launch if you don't have enough runway.
much of that bears reiterating, but the one of the things that really rang for me was you said, picture yourself leading, picture yourself developing. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, not nearly as critical or as important, but super cool and very unique. Again, I started with early on, this is not an infomercial for Mid-Michigan College. However, 2 colleges in the country have a hunting and angling scholars program. One is in Alabama, the other one is half an hour from here in Harrison, Michigan, Mid-Michigan College. Briefly, because we're running up on the end of it here. What's Haas?
Yep. So the Hunting and Angling Scholars Program is an opportunity for students to chase their passions in the outdoors in multiple different pathways. So there's an outdoor media pathway where you're doing and learning all things behind the camera, in front of the camera, production-wise, that goes along with things in the outdoors. So if you think of your hunting and fishing shows, you think of marketing, different outdoor products, all of that you learn in that program or that pathway. There's a conservation officer pathway where you take classes that are a mix of outdoor related, but also with the criminal justice to kind of have that combination to help prepare yourself for a potential career in the outdoors and law enforcement. As a conservation officer, fish and wildlife officer, game warden, every state has their own term for it. And then there's the business entrepreneur pathway, where if you do have an idea for an outdoor product, or if you want to work in the outdoors in the industry, whether you're a sales rep or you're promoting products, you're working in marketing, you can do all those different things. That is paired with our business side of Mid-Michigan College's programs to work towards, maybe a partnership over at Northwood, where you do 2 years at Mid, you do 2 years at Northwood, and then get your business degree from that and work in the outdoor field. So along with that, we do some really fun stuff. We have a ton of equipment that the students can use and get in the outdoors. So if they've never been duck hunting before, we have the decoys. We have one of the classes is a fishing strategies course. So we've had people that have never been fishing before that take the class, and by the end of it, that looks and sounds like they could be working at Jay's Sporting Goods, and they're talking about what rods they use and what they, lures are the best ones out there, and they have debates amongst them. It's just super cool. And then along with the program, we take the students on what we call expeditions, where they get to go out and practice what they learn in the classroom. So they're going on hunting and fishing trips, pheasant hunts, fishing for steelhead on the river, all sorts of different things in the outdoors, just to get them not only learning what's in the classroom and some of the tactics and strategies to be a part of the outdoors and hunt those specific animals or fish those specific species of fish, but also get out there and get that firsthand experience in the outdoors. So it's a really cool outdoor program. There's, like you said, there's only 2 of them in the country, and one of them is right here. And it's, we started out with 3 students. I was one of the first students along with 2 others, and just in the past 3 or 4 years, we're up to about 33.
And generally, what you just described is at no cost, almost no cost to the student.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We get a lot of partnerships and a lot of donations and a lot of discounts from a lot of the vendors because they realize how cool of an opportunity it is for the students, and they help us out and we try to help them out. And it's just awesome to get people on their first fish or get people show what it's like to walk or work behind a working gun dog and flush pheasants and just be in the outdoors in a time more now than ever where society seems a little off the wall at times. It's nice to be in the outdoors and clear your head. There's an old saying, when you go into the woods, you carry more weight than you do out of it. And I think a lot of people get that refreshment, that breathe the fresh air, go walk in nature, and they just come out a little bit happier than they did walking in.
I think I told you this, I helped Dan Robinson, a CO, with a tiny part of a final exam of his, and it was experiential learning. You know what we did? Do you have a question? Okay. You know what we did as a small part of Dan's final exam? We had to build a fire. It's like, if you're going to be outdoors, you better know how to build a fire. It was just one small part of it.
And cook s'mores, too.
Pardon? And cook s'mores. They did cook s'mores that day.
He had s'mores on top of it.
Yes, because that's a nutritional powerhouse. Annette.
The question is from West Shore.
Yes.
They would like to know what it would take to become a DNR officer.
What would it take to become a DNR officer?
So
It's a loaded question.
Yep. So the application is like every other agency. It's very long and asks a lot of information. From there, there's about 4 or 5 different steps to become a conservation officer, with about 3 different interviews. One's a pre-screen interview that they're just making sure that there's no outstanding, felonies or convictions or things that would disqualify you from a state standard to be a law enforcement officer in any division or any department. And then from there, there's a background investigation where they go into the depths of your background and talk to former coaches, teachers, employers, and parents, friends, ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends to get an understanding of who you are as a person. And then from there, there's a final interview. But after that, there's a 26-week-long academy that prepares you to be not only certified as a law enforcement officer in the state of Michigan, but also understand all the ins and outs of things that have fur, fish, or feathers on them. So all the things with ORV, hunting and fishing regulations, snowmobiles, land use orders, all those things that go along on top of your general law enforcement certification that you would need. And then from there, there's like 18 weeks of field training before you jump in and you're on your own through the probationary period before you're a full-fledged officer. So that whole process is about a year and a half. This past training academy process, they had about 500 applicants for 20 spots. So it's very competitive, just like all departments are. And there's a good chance you're probably not going to get on your first time. There's a lot of officers that within our department that have tried 2 or 3 different times, and our academies are about every other year, depending on state budgets and hiring cycles and how many spots are available.
Yeah, because that
So-
window's not open every year.
Yep. So some departments, they've got 1 or 2 academies every single year that they go into. Ours, we only have 250 officers, and you said you had 700 and some employees. So we're a much smaller department that covers all the counties throughout the entire state, so we only have about 2 officers per county on average.
What's the minimum age?
Minimum age is 21 by the time you finish the academy. So you can enter in when you're 20, but the final day of the academy, you have to be 21.
Mm-hmm.
And then no college requirement. You just have to have a high school diploma or a GED and then be 21. But all those things on top of, whether you're a criminal justice major or fish and wildlife, or you have 15 years experience doing other things, those are all resume builders that help show that this is what I'm working towards and this is the job that I want.
Cool. West Shore, thank you for that question. West Shore, thank you for that question. Send me a name and a shirt size. I want to send you a shirt for sending that along. Okay, we're up against it. So very briefly, final thoughts you want to share, Tim?
Oh, this is a great experience. You've already started on the right path in terms of the experiences that you're already receiving at the Career Center. Are already starting to make those plans. You have a lot of different options, as you can see, from higher education to going right into the field. But just know that, number one, there's a lot of people who are already in the industry who are here to help you. Number two, I always recommend anytime you meet anybody in the field of criminal justice, let them know who you are, and then make sure you get a business card or whatnot from them, and that's a great way to start networking in this particular field.
Mark?
I would just say work your tail off and then listen more than you talk and try to take as a little bit of information from everybody that you meet, whether it's a veteran officer, a veteran court clerk. You take the feedback that they give you, the criticism that they give you, and then try to be better.
I can just say you're picking what you're going to do for the rest of your life, and I have never regretted my decision to enter into this industry. I've never regretted being in the place to serve my community in this way, and it's fulfilling and challenging and fun. And if you can't find a way to laugh every single day you're doing this job, you're not working hard enough at it. I would highly recommend a career in criminal justice.
Super cool. Okay. We're wrapping this up here. We will host another roundtable with, matter of fact, we have a series of roundtable conversations over the next 4 or 5 months, so keep an eye out for those. Alas, they're not CJ, but regardless of that, I frequently put in the signature of my emails this reminder that real heroes, as cliche as it sounds, I mean it deeply. Real heroes don't always wear a cape, but they frequently wear a badge. Keep in mind, too, it's super powerful. Talk about superheroes. It's super powerful to be grateful and to say thank you. So do 2 things today. Thank that teacher in your classroom with you. I'm serious. Thank that teacher in the classroom with you. And find somebody involved with criminal justice and thank them too. Thanks for being here. It's been my pleasure, and we'll see you next time.